If you're a protester, like a person that's constantly going to these protests, and you're like doing vandalism and you're like throwing objects at police officers or other people and stuff like that, at that point, like I think where the average American is starting to get to the point where it's like, yeah, your life is forfeit now. Like they're getting, it's becoming more like that. And I think the closer we get to that point is where we start getting into very dangerous territory. But like, you know, it's
well, it shouldn't be confused. The left is definitely the aggressor in this by trying to disrupt federal law enforcement while they're doing a legal thing for them to do. The same thing that Obama did that they didn't show up to try to stop at that point. So we know this is all just partisan nonsense. It has to do with stopping Trump more so than does have to do with anything else. Right?
Yes.
Because Obama has more deportations than Trump. So therefore, obviously, they were doing more actual grabbing people and putting them away. They just weren't doing it, as he said, provocatively.
But
I think that's partially where the embarrassment of it comes from, is they're owning it rather than trying to do it secretly and then get exposed, which could actually give more oxygen to the opposition. One other thing, I'm not sure that government action won't create a worse reaction.
That's what I
right, where it actually creates more public sympathy for the anti-Trump forces at that point. I think it's a worthy discussion, but I unless there's an order to like for police to actively interfere, then it's pretty clear.
There's another side of this is like the Trump administration is beginning to try and like actively starve out the money flows that go to a lot of these groups that do this type of stuff, which is kind of where we're seeing a lot of the Soros dialogue and open society and those things, because you can't underestimate how much of these opposing factors are astroturfed from NGOs, the nonprofit sector, all of that stuff, right? So the more that you kind of starve that out, it makes ICE's job a lot better or a lot easier in the long run. But also there is a kind of mimetic shift where like you have on the internet all these government agencies, they're like posting Halo memes and things like that, which is like like it's becoming like they're mimetically capturing the moment where like even just your average American that's not even necessarily like the immigration's their big thing, they're looking at those and like, yeah, you got like that's I'm starting to see that more and more that's coming up too, which is kind of where, you know, we often talk about like what's cool and what's not cool, and that's kind of like the future of what takes off culturally speaking, where being on ISIS side or being on like the anti-immigration side or whatever, it's just becoming so much more. Did I say ISIS's side? It sounded like I said.
No, you said ISIS side, but it sounded like ISIS.
Yeah. Being with ISIS is cool.
Being on frozen water side.
I was thinking ISIS like the terrorist organization.
I know.
Syria. Yeah.
Not saying that. But it's becoming much more like cool. And there's like almost this, metaphysical is maybe not the right word, but there's this like, it's embarrassing to hold the other view. And I think I'm from the Fuentes stuff where like, if you want total domination, if you make it absolutely embarrassing to be having the other views, like those mayors are going to stop getting elected. Like those, you probably get to the point where you don't have to.
I don't know if it's not so entrenched that these Democrat cities are going to continue to be the way they are. But that said, the real question to me isn't so much as are they getting the cultural high ground. Yeah. He's claiming that the best thing to do is to head it off and just start arresting governors and mayors, which is a very different claim.
Which like he said, this might be a concontroversial take.
Yeah, it is. Well, I mean, I can see why I said that.
It was.
Yeah. Nick Fuentes here with a controversial take.
Never heard of that before.
Yeah, it's interesting because like I saw a lot of people where it's just like, oh, Tucker and Nick, they just want authoritarianism, and you're like, there is a sense to that, but like there is also I think a lot of this is just their interpretations of the current existing laws. Like, I don't even know if they're even proposing like, we need new laws here. It's like the current existing laws, like there's sedition that's going on here. And like, there needs to be trials that are happening in regards to sedition at this moment. Like this is,
but I'm not
seditionist acts is what they're claiming.
Right. And I'm just not sure that directing them not to help is sufficient for that case because of police prioritization traditionally being at the discretion of them. And having that division is actually an important institution of America, right? Meaning that the sheriff gets to determine what happens with the sheriff's budget and department. It can't get federalized, right? That's what separates us from the unitary states of Europe and of the rest of the world, is that we have actual localism with actual authority.
Yeah, the county sheriffs have a lot of sway on like whether or not the feds can come in and do something. They have like in some ways the most power.
Right. And so the same thing with mayors, with the police departments, and same thing with governors with their resources, the highway patrol mostly. So that is the question. And I'm not even saying I'm not saying I like these governors not doing that. I think they should provide support. I think that would be the right thing to do. I think this is all ideologically motivated because they weren't doing this when Obama was doing it. So therefore, it's all bullshit.